Hey you guys, I came up on here a little late. I apologize. I had a crazy day, but I did want to find some time to come up on here to talk to you guys about Venus in retrograde. And the reason being is because I want to make sure that I get this video out. We do have a full moon that's also coming on October 8th. So I didn't want to mush the two of them together. I kind of wanted them to have their chance of really being able to, for me to really get that information out there. But I want to talk to you guys about Venus in retrograde. Now, this is a major, all the retrogrades are really major, but this one is one of those retrogrades that I feel like all of us could definitely giggle a little bit, but depending on the aspects, that really changes things as well as far as how we handle it. But Venus rules the signs of Taurus and Libra. So it has anything to do with Taurus and everything to do with Libra. So when you think of Taurus, it has to do with the second house, which is finances, family assets. It has to do with possessions, speech, and it has to do with even stability, especially because, you know, the Taurus is all about stability. And it also has to do with our diet, because second house supports the first house, which is the body, and second house is the food intake that supports the first house, which is the body. So that's Taurus. And then for Libra, that has to do with beauty, love, artistic expression. It can stem to even law and justice, and also it mainly has to do with relationships and partnerships, okay? So really, Venus ruling both of these areas in our lives would make that be the reflection of those particular areas. And that really can stem anywhere within your birth chart. So depending on how your birth chart is set up, how your ascendant is, it depends on where everything falls into place, and that's really what's going to be affected. I'm going to try to come on here in the future to explain exactly how that's going to affect you according to your ascendant, but that series will take a little bit, so I want to get that together for you guys so I can really be specific. But let's talk about it overall, because that's what's really going to make a difference here, okay? So let's go into, and yes, Charlie, I have new glasses. Okay, so let's go into explaining what this is first, okay? So I explained to you just now that, and let me take this out. Trying to do the best that I can, but I hear myself with this headphone piece. This is supposed to be a good idea. Okay, so let's talk about how that's really going to affect. So the pre-shadow of Venus in retrograde was on September 2nd, okay? So September 2nd, and it started at 25 degrees and 15 minutes of Libra. So around that time period, there might have been, now this is right after all the other retrogrades. During this time, we just had Mars go direct. During this time, we also had Mercury go direct. So it kind of like was just the perfect setup. So when all that that mumbo jumbo kind of vanished away for us, we now entered into Venus in retrograde, going in its pre-shadow. So that started on September 2nd. Now, basically what this is, when I say like the retrograde, you're going to start off with a pre-shadow period, similar to Mercury in retrograde. It starts off with a pre-shadow, goes into stationary retrograde for a few weeks, and then after that it goes to its post-shadow period, and then it goes into stationary direct, okay? So understand that during the pre-shadow period, so from September 2nd all the way till now, coming to around October 5th, right? Hi, Erin. Coming to around October 5th, what happens, you have to pay attention to what's going on in your life when it comes to finances and love. Okay, those are big things. Even family, when you think of family as well, because again, it's family assets. But this is also collections we're talking about. So like when I say family assets, I'm talking about collector's items, things that you like to collect at home, what you like to bring into your home, so that way your family has its nourishment to be able to go about their day, okay? So that's basically what that has to do. So if you pay attention to things that have been going on leading up until now, there is a major theme for every single person when it comes to this area of finances and of love. Everyone has a different theme, but something's going on. I've heard themes ranging from even the idea of relationships and linking up with a previous ex that's from the past, trying to see if things will work out, and then ultimately coming to whether it's going to work out or not work out. I've seen situations with people with their families. So, you know, they might have the way that they artistically express themselves in their childhood, or the way that the love was represented with the mother or the father, wherever it falls in your birth chart specifically. But without looking at your birth chart, I would say focus on the themes right now, what's going on in your life when it comes to love and finance. And basically just kind of see how they're unfolding. That's pretty much what this whole Venus in retrograde thing is, how everything is unfolding. Okay, so let's talk about what exactly, like how it's going to unfold. So you have Venus that's in Libra on September 2nd, which is the Preshadow, right? So this is 25 degrees and 15 minutes of Libra. So Venus being in Libra is actually Venus's home. It's excited here because of the fact that Venus rules Libra and Taurus. So Venus is very comfortable here. During this time, you might have gone through some situations with people from either your present or your past, but things kind of seemed pretty light, pretty flowy. You know, there was this intention to be more artistic or more creative in your relationships. Now, this does not have to necessarily do with relationships. This can be partnerships, okay? This can also be how you express yourself at work, or if you're an artist, how you're creating. So everything was nice and flowy, or there was even that nice little storm that was happening cosmically when it comes to like ruffling things up, especially since Pluto, the planet of transformation, just went direct as well. So there was a couple planets that were going direct. Saturn went direct, Pluto went direct. But then on top of it, it was like, there was just everything was nice and flowy, right? Then, the week of the full moon, shit went crazy. Now, I'm saying this, some people might have had a great week, and most of those people might have a lot of Aries in their birth charts because they were able to express themselves normally. But last week, I can say, for a lot of people, from what I've been hearing, shit hit the fan. When the full moon in Aries came, everyone was getting very, you know, trying to focus on what it meant for self-love versus how to be there for other people. A lot of people were open and honest about their feelings that they kept inside. And ultimately what it was that last week, it was starting to go into Scorpio, Venus, okay? So, with Venus being in Libra and everything's like fine and dandy, people are really appreciative, and it goes into Scorpio. Now let's explain what Venus and Scorpio does. Scorpio is the sign of transformation, death and rebirth, regeneration. It's the sign of really getting deep into the secrets, okay? So being that Pluto is the modern day ruler of Scorpio, okay, and Mars is the traditional ruler, you now have Mars that was involved with that full moon, right, because it was in Aries, now pressing up against everything as well, trying to make sure all the secrets are coming out, things are coming out. If you guys watched my last video about the full moon in Aries, you'll also know that, you know, things were coming out in spurts, a lot of anger, a lot of things that were coming from underneath the surface that were ready to let go were just being aired out, and they were just coming and coming and coming. Now, what I can say is when Venus does actually go into retrograde on October 5th, the moon is going to be in Leo. But again, it's going to be that same spice, that fire, that same energy that was happening at the full moon. So right now, it's kind of haywire for everyone. It's really getting all the stuff and all the gook that we really want to hold on to. It's kind of bringing everything up to the surface. And it's creating things out of it. It's creating a bunch of stuff out of it. It can create beauty if you allow it to, or it could also create destruction. And it's really up to the person who is allowing all this to come in, how they kind of put everything together and how they make things flow to go in their liking. Or you could have a dramatic situation. I'm here for all the Libra info. Life is crazy as fuck right now. Yeah, well, a lot of people feel like that, unfortunately. And really what it is just the fact that you have to allow all that gunk to come up, especially since Pluto was in retrograde for quite a while, and then it just went direct, and Pluto is ruling Scorpio. So it's time to like really, it's almost like Pluto's going direct, ready to do its thing from all this reflection that it previously had. And now that it's ready to do its thing, it's meeting Venus, which is expression and love and finances, in Scorpio. And it's also in retrograde, and then it also has a Aries full moon. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what this really is supposed to do is cleanse out anything in your past that does not necessarily value the idea of self-love. Because ultimately, that's what Venus comes down to. If you don't know how to love yourself, you cannot love someone else. You can't put your energy out into someone else. If love is not truthful, is it really love? You know, if you're finding things that are coming out from underneath the surface and coming above, and you're seeing this and you haven't known this for years or months or whatever the case may be, and this is involuntary information. This is the cosmics now. Like, cosmic love is working in your favor. It's bringing all this energy towards you, bringing all this information. But it wasn't something that was voluntarily given. These are things that you have to define. Is this really love? Or am I obsessed with the idea of love, and ultimately I'm attracting something that I'm personally defining as love just to have something there? That is ultimately what Venus in retrograde is about. So it's also about the fact of making sure that if you're stable financially, think about it in this case. You might have a job that you admire dearly, but you're not happy. Now, those things clash naturally, right? So you have self-love and you have finances. So these are the things that it's going to look at. It's going to say, okay, yes, you're making good money, but are you in it for the money, or are you in it because you enjoy doing it? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, again, it brings back that same concept. If you're not feeding that self-love, you're not able to really put anything else out there for anyone to have. You can't project love if you don't feel love inside. That's ultimately what this is about. And that's going to take cleansing. It's going to take a lot of cleansing. So Venus being in Scorpio is going to raise that for you. And ultimately, this is the time period that you have to ask yourself, what are the things that I need to keep, and what are the things that I need to let go? What are the things that I need to put death to so other things can be reborn? What are the things that are going to feed more of my self-love so I can go out and project that onto my neighbors and spread all love and awareness? What is going to happen with that? Because at the end of the day, what I will tell you that a lot of people forget is that when you think of finances does not only apply to monetary compensation. Finances has everything to do with the way you look at your value within self. That's also like finances. It's value. Value is that idea, whether you're bringing in value for your family or whether you're able to project your value, the value you feel from inside, and you project that out onto others and make them feel good about themselves, right? So that's ultimately the important thing here, is to understand that although love is a beautiful thing, it starts from within, okay? It doesn't start, it's not even humanly possible for you to be able to love another person if you can't love yourself. All right, so again, so Libra also has to do with justice and law. So there's going to be a lot of situations going on right now as well where you might, let's say, have a case that you're up against, or whatever the case may be. You have a court case that you're fighting, and it's going to be reviewed. This is going to be the time period that things are going to kind of come out into the open, because again, Venus is in Scorpio, but Venus is representing that Libra energy, that justice energy. So there's a lot of cases going on even right now that I've been seeing on Instagram, and these are time periods that they're going to go back and review things because of the fact that Venus represents law as well. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's talk about the things that this is not a good time to start, as well as things that it is a positive time to start. So anytime that there's a reflection with a planet, whatever that planet represents means that you probably shouldn't start anything in that direction. So when we were speaking of Mercury in retrograde so many different times, and they talk about it all day long in the news, Instagram, whatever the case, Mercury in retrograde is one of the most popular retrogrades. But it has to do with communication. So they say it's not good to sign contracts or anything like that because it's communicating. It's not good to make plans to go on a trip somewhere without checking all the schedules 2-3 times to make sure that things are in order, to prepare for delays, okay? Because this is all communication coming from A to B. It's complicated. Things are haywire because of the reflection mode. Now everything's going back in review. So it's the same thing when it comes to Venus. So this is not really a good time to go on these dating websites and to meet the love of your life. It's probably not going to happen. It's not saying that it couldn't. It's just not, usually they don't really last, because Venus having to do with love means that it's going to reflect on previous love interests and relationships. This is not really the time period to bring something new in. And what happens ultimately is if you bring something new in during this time, it basically, once you get to November 16th, which is when Venus goes direct again, it could turn out that the person that you have a love interest with is not exactly who you thought they were, or especially since Venus is in Scorpio and going into Libra and back and forth with that, it also could mean that that person has a lot more secrets. They look to be like a beautiful person when you have that idea of Venus and Libra. They looked equipped to handle your personality, they look supportive, etc. And then when you go back to being direct, it's actually going, the backwards is going forward now, right? Because you're in retrograde, you meet someone in a backwards mood, and now with you going direct, you're switching them over to forward, and they may not be exactly what you thought it was going to be. Okay, they might be someone different. They might have a different personality. They might not be as supportive, and etc. When did this start? So I said earlier, the Preshadow, it started September 2nd. So that means that it's getting prepared, and then it's going to begin in retrograde mode on October 5th, and it's going to be in retrograde into November 16th, which it'll then go into the post-shadow, which means things will start rearing back up and go until, I believe, December 17th. All right, so between October 5th and November 16th, though, like I was saying, it's not really a good time to start any new relationships. Now, if you do meet someone online, or like, and I say online because online is tricky. You can match with someone and then you don't really talk to them until maybe you match with them in like April and you didn't talk to them until now, or whatever the case may be. Or it could just be that you meet someone out at work, or you meet someone wherever, out with friends, whatever the case may be. What I will tell you is this. It's not necessary for you to literally be like, and I'm not kidding, because like this is exactly what my friends think that I do. It's not cool to go up to someone and be like, you know, I think you're good looking and like I would totally be down with going out with you. But because Venus is in retrograde right now, we're going to have to put this off until November 16th, because people probably would think you were crazy. Not saying that it's not okay to be nuts, but like if that's what you want to do, go for it. It's not something I would do. But what I will say to you is that you want to take it slow. You kind of want to really stretch things out a little bit more than usual. Go with the flow, but understand that like things can get fiery pretty quickly, and I'm going to explain to you why. And this is the things that you have to watch out for before I continue talking about what you shouldn't do as well, okay? Actually, no. Let me finish talking about what you shouldn't do, and then I'll tell you why it's important to make sure that you don't go off the haywire and rush things. So you don't want to start new relationships or sign any contracts. Now, I am so sorry to people who might take offense to this, but I'm delivering information. This is what my job is to do. Those that plan on getting married during this time, it's a tricky situation because it has to do with contracts. Now, I know that weddings and stuff, you plan things out or whatever for quite a while. You pick a date. But what I can say to you is this. It is not the greatest time to get married because of the fact that, or I should even reword this. If it's a quick marriage, not a good idea. If this is something where you maybe have this miraculous ideal, I want to be with this person and I want to be engaged, not the perfect time period for that. Reason being, again, is because things can change. Now, for those that already planned out their wedding, does not mean don't get married, but what it's saying is that make sure you focus heavily on your contract. You have to make sure that you really go over things, that you're not just signing things just because, oh my God, we're finally getting married, and you're not like going over things like, right now would be a smart time to think about a prenup and things like that, because these are things that you have to think about when it comes to love and when it comes to value and things like that as well. Things to reflect on. But again, getting married during this time period on a whim, like just go in a city hall or, just proposing to somebody, just think about it a little bit longer, because of the fact, like I said, Venus was just in Libra and everything was lovey-dovey. I would definitely suggest to let this transit kind of play itself out, especially because this is the time period you're going to learn a lot more about your partner. Doesn't matter how long you've been with them, trust me. So make sure that you take things slow with that, okay? Financial changes. Do not quit your job and start something new on the whim. Not a good idea. Again, reason being, this has to do with finances. This is a time period to reflect, okay? Think of the job that you have. Why are you not happy there? What is the money, what is the monetary value that you're making there that you feel like you should be making more? Like, why is that? Make a list, because again, this is reflecting. So if you're going ahead and you're making a list, a proper list that's like plain and simple, you could read it and you can just go over it during this time period. If you have to add more, it'll help that. If you don't have to add more, that's fine. But you want to keep going over these things, because ultimately on November 16th, when Venus goes direct, that's the perfect time to start making decisions going forward when it comes to financial changes. Same thing with the cosmetic industry. And this is for all my loving, dear, beautiful people that I have so many relationships with from the cosmetic industry, whether hair, makeup, whatever the case. Let me tell you this, you guys might hate me for this, but I'm keeping it real. Right now is not a good time to get your hair done, like a permanent thing. So getting like highlights, haircuts, any of that stuff, this is not the time period to do that, okay? Because Venus rules cosmetic services. If you're getting something permanent, you might feel, oh my God, I want to get this haircut. I'm so tired of this hair. You get it chopped off, and then before you know it, come November 16th, you're like, oh my God, I just chopped all my hair off, okay? I am telling you this because I have a friend of mine who has texted me recently that this has happened to. And although I love her haircut and I think she's working it now, in the beginning, she was like, oh my goodness, like, I cannot believe this. I hate this haircut. So I'm telling you right now, not the time period. Okay, the things that will start happening that are really, really funny. If it hasn't already happened, I promise you it will. You will start, especially since September 2nd, you will start to receive messages from your exes apologizing, hey, how you doing, check it in, all types of stuff. Anyone that feels like there was a communication that should have been savored, or that they're just thinking about you, whatever the case, I'm not even kidding you, it will happen. I remember when I got my first one and I looked and I was like, oh, great, Venus is Preshadow and retrograde right now. This is what's happening. I'm telling you, it will totally happen. And ultimately, what this is because everyone is reflecting on love and art, and everyone is reflecting on finances. And many times when you think about it, which kind of sucks, but it's the truth, when you think about marriage, a lot of people fail because of finances. Or when you think about relationships, a lot of people fail because somebody's not doing what they need to do as far as their life, or they're not motivated, or whatever the case may be, okay? So it's there. Jabbar, I got one yesterday. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. You guys you'll get more. I'm not kidding. You will get hit up a few times from your exes. And you yourself might reach out. You yourself might reach out and just be like, hey, I was thinking about you, and not even realize that that's ultimately because everyone's going through it. You're going to be thinking about your previous relationships, even previous partnerships. So it might not necessarily be just exes. It could be a partnership that you had, or a previous job that you were at, or whatever the case, because it has to do with the finances, and because it's partnerships at the end of the day. So maybe you had someone that you wanted to do a business with, and you know, it didn't work out in the beginning, but now the person wants to contact you again, or maybe they were like rude, or you had a fallout, or whatever the case may be. And again, this could also be friendships. Now, 11th house really more so has to do with friendships as groups, but 7th house, which is what Libra rules, has to do with like that relationship between one and another person. So you could even have friendships that there's old friends that come back and they apologize, or maybe you start thinking about interactions that you've had with other people that you want to kind of save your relationship and kind of like talk or whatever the case may be, so that way you guys can help each other move past whatever you went through. So anything that has to do along with like you and another person, again, I've said like a million times, finances or diet. I didn't really talk too much into that. So it's the same thing with diet. Second house has to do with food intake, and it has to do with supporting the first house, which is the body. So this might be a time period too, although sixth house, which is Virgo, has to do a lot with physical diet. Second house doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, I'm just taking in just food as in a diet. It has to do with energy as well. What are you taking in as energy food for your system? So even the people that you are surrounding, right? Because you have that seventh house of Libra, that partnership, the people you're surrounding yourself with, if they're not giving you positive energy to intake, because ultimately that's food too, right? It's not just going into the store and getting, you know, eggs and, you know, rice and whatever you put in your food, meat, whatever you eat, okay? It's not saying it's just that. It's the energy that you're also sucking in from being around people. So if somebody is negative, that's food intake, right? And when I say food intake, I say it because that's what food is for. It's for energy, right? You eat food and you burn the food off, and then you eat more food and burn that's what that is. Food intake is to provide energy. So it's the same thing as spiritual intake. If you're around negative people, best believe they're going to literally not just drought you from giving you your water and your nutrition, but they're also going to like not provide anything for you to replenish yourself either. You know, so it's just kind of like, and they're going to suck all that energy out of you because they barely have any energy themselves, or they'd obviously be able to give it to someone else. So these are things that you have to think of as far as that too, okay? Now let's talk about the aspects, because this actually, oh, and these are just fun little facts before I talk about the aspects. So Venus takes about 225 days to complete a full orbit around the sun. So that makes the retrograde about every 18 to 19 months. So it doesn't come around like as often as like a Mercury in retrograde. All right. So I think the last one, I'm not even kidding you, the last one, I think I did get back with my ex or something like that, and like it was a disaster. But that's just giving an example, you know, like that was the last one, and his exes started coming around and he was telling me stories. So like it's definitely a thing. I'll let you and like I said, if you guys have been hearing from people from the past, please comment, because I've posted something earlier today and I've already got a couple people saying something, you know, and then I just had another person say, so yeah, please let me know if you guys are definitely getting these messages, because they're funny. But let's talk about the aspects, because these aspects are kind of, they're cute. They're kind of funny too. So Venus goes in retrograde on October 5th. And when it goes into retrograde, at that time, it'll be 10 degrees and 50 minutes. Scorpio, Venus will be at that. And then Mars is going to be squaring Venus at Aquarius, it'll be at 7 degrees and 54 minutes. So again, squaring means conflicted. All right, Mars is the energy of what we had at the full moon. It is Aries energy, is Scorpio energy. So when you think about this, okay, we already just had this full moon. All this shit start coming up, right? All these, like, I mean, over the last couple weeks has been, you're getting annoyed from things. Things are bothering you. Things are freaking you out. You know, this person's pissing you off. You're coming at them. Everybody's all fiery energy, right? So that's what happened with the full moon in Aries. People said how they felt. They were really connecting with understanding self versus giving their energy off to other people, because obviously if you can't love yourself first, you can't give that energy, right? And this all stems from the idea of the new moon in Virgo that happens on September 9th, right? You were thinking of all the things, you set your intentions, you're like, okay, Virgo is that energy of how do I self-care myself but also take care of others, but like I want to still service other people, but I have to still have that idea of setting my boundaries. I want to make sure things are organized, things are concise, clear, all the details are set up, right? That's that Virgo energy. That's what you had. You set your intentions on September 9th with whatever you needed to have organized, okay? Then after that, you had the full moon in Aries, right? So now that you have things organized, you start realizing, oh my God, I have to get rid of this, and this person's making me mad. Mind you, Venus is also in Scorpio during this time, so you're finding out things about things that you didn't know about previously before, with friendships, with relationships, with partnerships at work, whatever the case may be. So now you have all the things that you went through with the new moon, right? You went through that new moon, you set everything up, you organized everything. Now the full moon is crashing and burning everything, and it's getting rid of everything left and right, because now you have this irritation of like, I want these things that I set my intention on, but this is in the way, that might be in the way, this is clogging this is bad energy. So now you're just left and right getting rid of all the negativity, right? And then, before you have the new moon in Libra, okay, which is going to be on the 8th, because that's going to bring in harmony. Now, like, now that you've been all through all this, now you're setting your intentions towards harmony, right? But before that, right before that, Venus goes into retrograde. And now Mars is also taking, it had its moment in the full moon. Now Mars has its moment with squaring with Venus. So now they're putting their boxing gloves on and fighting each other, okay? And ultimately what this does is, think of it this way. If love is conflicting with war, okay, how could you, love is conflicting with war, if finances are conflicting with, you know, that me character, what does that really ultimately bring? It brings conflicts between that, and it causes friction. Now, the idea of friction could be two things. It could turn into temper issues, or it could turn into sexual frustration. So this is where you have to have the thin line between which option that you want to take. Now, ultimately, let's go back to what I said. If you start a new relationship and then now you have this sexual friction, what do you think happens? Now you jump into the bed too quickly with this person because you have this sexual friction going on. And ultimately, this is just stemming from the fact of trying to figure your self-love out, right? Trying to figure out, all right, well, I care about myself. I love myself. I have this value in my, like, this is what makes me valuable. This is what, and ultimately you're figuring yourself out now it's causing that friction. It's causing that frustration. And now you're at, it sounds crazy, but you're freaking out inside. You're at this climax of energy, and then now you want to release it. But releasing it too early with somebody that you haven't really built a bond with, that can really be able to kind of like break things down for you or break things down with you to explain why you might feel this kind of way or whatever the case may be. Now let's put it this way. People that are having the sexual friction and they have positive relationships, they're going to have a great time. But the people that are going through trying to figure themselves out at this point in time, this is not a good time to mix in something new. Because God forbid, you know, things happen and maybe you sleep with someone too early and you can either get bored with them or you can say, wham bam, thank you ma'am, that was too easy, or whatever the case may be. That's now going to plummet your self-value, right, in your mind. You're not going to feel good about that. So this is why it's really important to not like make things too quick right now. Take your time if you're going to involve yourself in something new. And for the people that have healthy, positive relationships, wrap it up, but have some fun, right? All right, so that's that whole idea of Venus and square. I'm trying to see. Oh, and mind you, the moon will also be in Leo, so this is also, there's going to be some people, and I'm laughing at this, but it's the truth. There's going to be some people that are going to be very active. Like, they're going to be really excited to have all this sex with their mate, and that's great. Now, also, bringing this up, too, because this is also important. If you do have a relationship that is going really well, and, you know, things are really good, and you guys have already been intimate together, you've been dealing with each other for some time, or whatever the case may be, this is a time period that tantric sex is definitely possible, because there's so much energy of like friction going on and passion that tantric sex could happen. Now this is another reason why Venus is trine with Neptune. Now, trine means that they work together, right? They kind of like blend and it really means they're of the same element ultimately, but they work together, okay? With Venus being in Scorpio and then Neptune being in Pisces, this is going to make things romantic and dreamy for those that do have a positive relationship, okay? Or it might make things romantic for those who are going through this ooh la la moment with someone new, not realizing that it may not carry out the same way because they're not taking their time or because they met during Venus in retrograde, okay? But this time period it's good for healthy relationships because you have an opportunity for it to be romantic, dreamy with Neptune and Venus being trine Neptune. And yeah, there was this one quote that I loved that I found online. It says, "You are in your most intense state of conscious and subconscious concentration during sexual involvement." Okay, so that would explain like tantric sex, and that's really a good time for those that are in healthy situations, right? People that have had relationships that they've built, that they know the person, that they know the person's not there to hurt them, and that there's not like abuse or anything going on. People that are trying to evolve and merge together, this is the perfect time for that because you have the friction, which, like I said, friction doesn't have to be negative. It just stirs things up, and it spices things up. There's friction to either, like I said, you can go into a temper mode, or you can also take that into a sexual mode, and adding that romance would be beautiful. But if you're doing it with someone that you just met, you're not on the level of understanding the way their energy works. And that has nothing to do with saying don't be spontaneous. I'm not talking about you want to sleep with someone on the first, second date. That's your business. Who cares? Do whatever. Make you happy. But in this particular instant, because what I'm saying is that Venus in Scorpio is craving something heavy. Okay? That energy needs to be heavy. This is a time period right now that, like, you might overlook a 10-year relationship and kind of reflect on it and be like, the spark is not there anymore. Like, I'm looking for something deep. That's exactly what a lot of us are craving in this period in time, is that depth. Craving that life that's really down to your core there, that you guys can totally understand each other. That's what you're craving. And you might not have that with your significant other right now. And it is what it is. That's something that you have to come to an understanding to, and you have to really reflect on that. But ultimately, that's what the Venus in Scorpio is. It's saying, I'm looking for the depth. Whether the depth is going deep down and we're uncovering those secrets that's going to make us feel uncomfortable, ultimately, if we're a healthy relationship, let the shit be uncomfortable. Because that uncomfortability, it might bring out some friction where it turns into sexual healing, or, you know, we can connect better because now we finally announce the elephant in the room, or because we tried something different. You know, those are the main things that Venus in Scorpio was looking for. It's looking for that deep down, not afraid, ready to merge, because you have both, you know, that duality. You have that feminine flair and that masculine flair, and they're both working together, and they're one. That's ultimately what Venus in Scorpio is looking for right now. And again, you can't get to that if you don't love yourself first, and you damn sure can't get to it if somebody is abusing you or lying to you or anything like that, because that ability to merge like that as two souls coming together to the ultimate climax is something that is done when spirits are really allowing themselves to be vulnerable enough to go through that experience, okay? So this is a time period that cosmically it's supporting that, but it ultimately comes down to you having to have that conversation with yourself first. If you don't feel good about your relationship, or you don't feel worthy in your relationship, you have to ask yourself, why don't I feel worthy in my relationship, right? Because you can't blame someone else for not being worthy of you if you're not worthy of yourself. But if you're genuinely feeling a certain type of way of why things are not working out with you, it starts with you, and you have to realize that. A lot of times we want to blame the people that we're with, and it's like, no, relationships are mirrored images of you. So you're with that person because there's a reason, there's something about that person that makes you feel that way. So if you're in an abusive relationship and you allow yourself to stay in that abusive relationship, and you have the ability to get out and be, like, you know, when I say safe, like the person's not causing more issues of you leaving or whatever the case may be. But if you allow yourself to stay in an abusive relationship, you have to come to a certain place in your mind where you're like, what is it about myself that I am allowing this to happen? Why am I attracted to this kind of person? There's a million people, well, way more than a million people out there, but there's so much access to so many people. But why do I feel like I deserve this person treating me the way that they do? Why am I staying with them? That's the major thing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that all has to do with self-love. And that's, at the end of the day, if you leave a situation from this, understand that it's because you were thinking about self-love. Now, lo and behold, what's great about this situation is that when it comes in direct, Venus goes direct November 16th. It'll be, it'll be at direct, and it will be at this moment, back in Libra, okay? So now, you sat there, you got rid of all the stuff, all the garbage, you threw it out, whatever the case may be. Now you're getting back into Libra mode again, right? Because the degrees, they go backwards. So you were in Scorpio, so now it's going backwards as far as the retrograde, or not necessarily going backwards, but going towards that way, like forward but backwards. It's weird. But now you're at 25 degrees and 15 minutes of Libra again, okay? And that's when it comes to that directs. And ultimately what it does is now it goes from 25 minutes and 25 degrees and 15 minutes of Libra, and then in its post-shadow it travels back to that original 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Scorpio. Okay, so it can go forward. But ultimately when it gets back to that Libra now it's like, okay, so now that we've cleared all that shit out that you don't need, let's go back into the harmonious flare of Libra again. But when it gets there, the only aspect that you should have to really know about is Uranus. It aspects Uranus. It's opposite. So Venus will be 25 degrees and 15 minutes of Libra, and Uranus will be in Aries at 29 degrees and 38 minutes of Aries, okay? What this basically does, Uranus represents change. It rules Aquarius, so it represents the rebellious change. Again, I mentioned this so many times as far as like Saturn and Uranus. Saturn builds a foundation and Uranus breaks it. But not just breaks it, it gives respect to Saturn for its working and its building ability. And then it takes what has been built and it respectively builds on top of that to evolve it into something greater. Okay, that's what Uranus does. So going ahead and having Venus, okay, be opposite of Uranus, after all this stuff you just went through, right? You went through the new moon in Virgo, you went through the full moon in Aries, then you went, and on October 5th, now Venus entered retrograde, then you had the new moon in Libra, right, on the 8th, on October 8th. Then you also, in this time period, go through a new moon in Taurus, and, a full moon in Taurus, and then a new moon in Scorpio as well, right? So you have all these different things going on. When you finally get to November 16th and Venus goes direct, when Venus is opposite Uranus, this is going to create change, a massive change in your life. So on November 16th is when shit gets real and you're like, what am I getting rid of that has not already gotten, like, I'm done with, right? Breakups can happen. Breakthroughs can happen, okay? Like, freedom, that's ultimately what it means. Freedom, change in your love life, change in finances, change in your self-worth. How are you looking at yourself now? Here's a mirror, right? Passing you the mirror. What do you feel about yourself now? All the stuff that you went through, all the air that you've cleared out, how do you feel? And this is not just secrets that just have to do with other people. Your secrets can come to light, right? Your secrets can totally come to light. I'm sad, I don't have any water. I was drinking tea. Okay. So, like, yeah, shit's gonna hit the fan. Shit is supposed to hit the fan right now. There's way too many secrets. They have to come out. And ultimately, Pluto just went direct too. So it's ready to really get things back in order. It wants to see us transform. That's the purpose of it, is to elevate, to ascend, to not stay into the same rut that you were previously at, to not feel sad about who you were before, because now that version of you has died and another version of you is reborn into something even more magical. This is what Venus has to do with. It has to do with the love for self. And ultimately at the end of the day, sometimes you have to get rid of some garbage. You have to confront yourself in the mirror. You have to go through things that may treat you like garbage, so that way you realize that you're not. You might have to deal with these things, because at the end of the day, there's a little secret here. Nobody fucking knows. That's the secret. No one knows. There's not a single person in this entire world that actually knows what this really is, right? We have our thoughts about what's going on, what this is, what's the greater meaning. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you cannot tap into your own mind to say, who am I? What am I worth? What am I doing? You know, what do I want to be? How do I ascend to the next level? How do I get up there? How do I keep flying? And then once you get to that is the only time period that you can then say, I need to add this person to my life. Or this person is going to make me more magical than I already am, and because I feel magical within my own skin, now I can help them be as magical as they are, right? If you're not at that level of really understanding your self-worth, how the fuck are you going to allow somebody else in to help you continue that feeling, right? Because you're only going to attract what you're ready for. And I'm sorry for, like, cursing, but I'm saying it's a serious matter. What are you going to be able to attract if you don't have any energy that's flowing life within, that's making you everything you can be? Like, it's just not possible. And you deserve much greater. Okay? So that really has to do, right. The change is going to come. Trying to see if I have any other fun little notes. No, that's pretty much it. Does anyone have any questions? I rarely ask this because I normally just like keep going and going and going, and then eventually I get tired of talking and I'm like, okay, bye. But alright, if anyone has any questions though, just message me or write it in this video, and I will definitely answer your questions, because Venus in retrograde is one of those retrogrades a lot of people don't talk about as often. Okay, got your message. Yeah, people don't necessarily talk about it as often, and it's kind of comical. Like, I don't know. I think it's funny because even the amount of shit that has happened up until now, I'm just kind of like, I'm thinking about it. I'm in reflection mode, right? I tend to start my reflections early because I kind of already know they're coming. So it's like premeditating what's going to happen. Not that I like can do that really successfully, but I try. But yeah, so like just the amount of stuff that has happened until now. And maybe that's why today I'm a little loopy. I'm sure if you watch my previous videos, you're like, okay, she's like slightly out of it today. But like, I honestly, I'm thinking about the things that have happened, and I'm just like, it's so crazy when I'm explaining this to you guys. But like, when I think about it in my own life, I'm like, wow, this is really unfolding. And I just can't even express to you enough. Like, it's just, this is one of the most amazing retrogrades, because you get to think about what your value is. You get to really, really think about it. And you're going to be tested a lot. You are really going to be tested. And at the end of the day, one thing that I will definitely say is you have to remember, a lot of people don't understand what I mean by this, and I'm so sorry if you don't understand this feel free to ask me privately if you have questions on this. People are ideas, okay? So, like, when you meet someone in an Uber, think of it this way. You meet someone in an Uber, you guys might hear, I don't know, have something similar in common or whatever the heck it may be. The Uber driver starts talking and starts up a conversation, whatever the case may be. You go off on your ride, they go off on theirs, right? That concept even applies to relationships, okay, or different things going on. I'm currently reading The Alchemist, and this talks a lot about it in that book, where it's like everything in this world, once you make an intention, everything in the universe is now building a surrounding arena of like the shit that you say in Hunger Games. It's like a surrounding energy arena that's like trying to get you to get what you're asking for. Okay, that's what the universe does. It sets everything up. It makes the calls like an Uber. Like, okay, this person's going to this destination. This person's going here. I'm going to put these ideas in my computer, and I'm going to figure out a way that's going to be easier so we can, a route that's going to pick them both up, right? You're on the pool ride for Uber or the pool ride for Lyft, right? So it goes and picks you up, but it still drops you both off at separate destinations. But while you're in that car, there's that connection that is being shared. You may not talk to that person while you're in the car, but some of you might. You know, there might be a connection that you make. And ultimately, that's what relationships are. That's what jobs are. That's what really anything is. It's the idea that when you make an intention and you sit and you connect with yourself, you connect with your higher energies, whatever they may be, and you say, I genuinely feel like this is the right path for me. I'm asking your help to enjoy this area in my life, or to work on these things in my life, or to bring these things into my life, right? The universe only responds. You know, so at that point, everything starts to move. Now, you may never know how much time that may take because things fall into place when they're supposed to, but at the end of the day, everything is now moving to get you to that point, okay? And you might meet someone in that time period, and they might meet you, but you guys have two different things you're learning from each other. You cross paths, you learn it, and then you end up going off into other directions. And that can happen. And a lot of people don't understand, but I don't get why, like, we linked up, everything was good, or this, and people get stuck in the past, and it's like, you have to understand, you're still on a journey. You're still on a journey to learn things. The journey is not just about coming here, getting married, getting a job, living your years and dying. That's not what it's about. But if it's about learning, you might cross paths with certain people and get into people's Ubers, right? Or whatever the case may be, or start a relationship or work with someone. And at the end of the day, when it's time to detach, because you're not supposed to be together forever with that particular person, you will have to allow yourself to detach. That means that there's something else out there for you. And if you allow yourself to be stumped into that one situation, you'll never get to that next situation. But I say this to let you guys know that this comes in all shapes and forms. They're tests. They're tests to see where you would like to go. If you really, really wanted what you asked for, or if it just sounded good and you just said it. The universe doesn't just give things to you. It needs to know why you want to go to that direction, and you have to give it something for it to give you something. There has to be an even exchange. That's what it's about, the balance. So ultimately, I say all of this because I need to let you guys know, when you think about these relationships, you know, when you start to reflect on them, don't just jump back in one. You know, this is a good time. I say don't start new relationships. This is a great time if there's past relationships and, like, you know, that have happened and things didn't end off so well. This is a good time to apologize. Say you're sorry, or the other person says they're sorry, and you mend it, whether that be go forward as a friendship or go forward as more, or maybe just go your separate ways. But if there's somebody from the past, this is totally fine for you to try to rekindle something. If there's a job in the past that you did not take at one point or didn't work out, and now it is coming to fruition right now, and you're like, what the hell, I just planned my whole life other than this, and now it's coming back, like, then this is the time period to do it, because it's from the past. So anything from the past, it's totally understandable to bring it back, because that's what you're doing, you're reflecting. But things that are in the future, have them, but let them be in the future, okay? I'm going to read some of these comments. Let's see. Because my Venus is in Scorpio, is this going to be more intense or just what I feel daily? It's going to be... Okay. It's going to feel normal to you. It might be more intense. It might feel like... I'm not even kidding, you might be like, yes, now everybody understands what the hell I'm going through. They can see the passion that I feel every day, and people are just kind of like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And you're like, yeah, now you know how I feel. Now you get it. You get all the intensity. You get all the shit that's going through my head. This might be that time for you, because it's just too, you're in your home area, right? So I have my Venus in Libra. So, like, I was happy as hell. Venus and Libra, I was like, yay, everything's so magical and glossy. I was just enjoying life. I really, really was. I wasn't thinking about anything else going on. It was a shitstorm around me, and I was like, it's fine. Everything's okay. Everything's good. Everything's beautiful and lovely, right? Because that's Venus and Libra. Venus and Libra is that person that just loves the beauty and glorious things in life. It's the natural artistic flair. It's that, like... Venus is in its happy place. It has that chemistry, right? It's like, all right, I'm good, right? So putting yourself in a position of having Scorpio, though, now when people are like, oh my God, I just found out about such and such, or I did this, or I did that, in the back of your mind, you're like, you just found out? That was obvious as hell. I seen that from a mile away, because anyone with Venus and Scorpio, the reason why people with Venus and Scorpio are I have Venus in the 8th house, even though mine's is in Libra. So I have like Venus and Libra with Venus and Scorpio in a way. It's actually worse than Venus and Scorpio. Sorry to my future husband. But yeah, so Venus in Scorpio, Venus in the 8th house is very much so, I know what you did before you did it. I knew when you thought about it before you actually realized you thought about it. Like, that's what a Venus in Scorpio, Venus in 8th house can do. It's like, I see right through you. I see through you so much. Your soul doesn't even, it hasn't even caught up with your own thoughts yet. Like, they haven't connected, and I've already picked it up. It's that energy. So a Venus in Scorpio or a Venus in 8th house or whatever the case may be that's going through this Venus in Scorpio right now is just kind of like, oh, well, I just waited for this shit because I knew that this was going on. I was just mad because it wasn't out in the open. But now, this shit's just coming out in the open. I don't even have to do no work. I don't have to manipulate anybody to say anything. I don't have to, trigger anybody's emotions, because Venus in Scorpio, Venus in 8th will do that. It is that I know how to trigger you to make you tell me the things I want to know. A Venus in Scorpio can do that. So them being in the situation right now of Venus being in Scorpio, absolutely. They're in their happy place. They're like, finally, now y'all feel how I feel. Okay, let me see what else. Sometimes getting what you ask for, even temporarily. Ooh, oh shoot. Why can I not see this? Sorry, guys. Darn it. Alright, I don't think it's going to let me see it full time. Sometimes getting what you ask for, even temporarily, is a lesson to let you know what you don't want. I think that's what it says. It says see more, but I'm pretty sure that's what it says. And yes, I absolutely agree. 150,000%. How can I summarize this too? Sometimes getting what you ask for, even temporarily, is a lesson to let you know what you don't want. Exactly. Talking about self-worth and self-love again, when it comes to this. So let's say you go and you meditate and you say to yourself, like, I want to obtain this goal, or I really, really want that guy, right? Now let's say, because everybody's been there, and I'm not going to say that I haven't been there, and I've been there within the last year and a half about somebody, and let's say that person comes in my life again, And like at this point in my life, I'm like, well, I have so much going for me. I have things that I want to get or things that I want to do, right? And now this person's coming back. My best friend likes to joke with me, and she says, when you make orders, you like expect the order to come right away, right? And when she says orders, I'm not ordering anybody. She's like, when you make orders to the universe, when you call out like, please let me have this, you expect it to have it right away. And I'm a Pisces ascendant. If you learn about Pisces ascendants, I mean, I'm Aquarius Pisces, but if you learn about Pisces ascendants, it will say that we're very impatient. we expect it to come right away. We're like, oh, but I want this, and we think it's going to come. Or even Aquarius ascendants, but I want it to play out like this, and it doesn't, right? So you're like, what the hell? This was not, and then you switch, and you want something else. And then it's like, when you finally get the first thing you asked for, it's so down the line in your head, you're like, I was already over that, right? So it's important to understand. She says Cancer too. It's important to understand that you wanting something temporarily, or you wanting to achieve something temporarily, you can ask for it and you might get it, but it might not be what you want. Oh, it finally loaded. Yes, that's what she said. Sometimes getting what you ask for, even temporarily, is a lesson to let you know that you don't want what you asked for. Exactly. Exactly. Plus to show you what's really important. Exactly. And another thing too, thinking again about self-worth. If you ask for something and it starts to come into fruition, you realize I don't want it, that's something that you also have to say, okay, but why do I not want this anymore? How have I grown to make me not want this? Or am I being kind of like ridiculous now? You know, some of us can be even petty with ourselves, and we could say, oh, I want this, but now I don't really want it because I wanted it before and it wasn't mine, right? Again, that's not really how you should go about it. And yes, as far as a job, the last thing I would say, it's the same thing with a job. If a job starts to come into fruition right now, you have to go with it. Like a new job, go with it, see what happens. But if it's a job that you have and you're like, I'm not happy here, again, you're spending most of that time at work, right? Even though we may have families, or even though we might have other hobbies, whatever our work is full-time is majority where we are, right? We're spending so many hours there. So it's so important, so important, I tell you, to understand that if you are not happy at your job, you're not happy. There's no way. Because you can't, like, when people say I'm happy, happiness is a choice. Saying I'm not happy in my job, but I'm happy, and you're spending most of your time at your job, that might be that you're content, but you can't be happy. Because if you're, like, yeah, you could be happy with a situation. I'm happy to go home to my kids. I'm happy to be home to my wife or husband, whatever the case. But overall happiness is not contentment. Contentment, I've never really liked that word, contentment, because they'll say, even when I went to yoga, they said content one time, and I was like, why the hell would you want to be content? Content is comfortable. And life is not supposed to be comfortable. You don't learn like that. So if you're comfortable at work, but you're not happy at work, you're not fully able to be happy. Don't ever come out and say, oh, I'm happy with my this, but I'm not really. No. This is your life. You need to be happy about everything in it. And I know a lot of people will say, that's not even possible. Yes, it is. It's possible to say, I love my job. I'm happy at my job. I love my family. I'm happy with the way everything's working out with my family, my home, this. The only thing keeping you from being able to obtain that is you. Because you have in yourself this doubt that is a plague that we're given once we're younger, and it's embedded in our heads that, like, we're not going to get everything that we want. That's not true. You can definitely get everything that you want, plus more. But it's the way that you allow your brain to think about things. You can have anything that you really desire as long as it's in good respect to loving other people. You can have it. Why not? The happier you are, the more that you're willing to spread love and light to other people. So why not, right? It depends on the way that you think. But anyway, you guys, I hope that this really helped you guys understand what Venus in retrograde is about. There was a lot of information being thrown at you. Plus, there was just me talking about some more personal stuff that I, like, have experienced. I definitely already started getting my highs from past people. They're funny as hell. Enjoy them. Why not, right? Make a collage. Drink some wine with some friends and go through them. It's funny. It's something to laugh at. But no, at the end of the day too, if it's a genuine person and it's somebody that actually like cares and you really feel like they're a good person, why not? But other than that, have a good time with it. Don't take it too seriously. Be careful because this is the time period that people that are crazy will definitely be like, oh, hey, how you doing? I really, I talked to you a certain way and I'm really sorry. And blah, and then before you know it, just give it a little bit more time because Venus is still going to be in Scorpio and you're going to see them go crazy like, oh, Venus in Scorpio. So just give it some time, right? Give it some time to get to know new people. People might show their colors quicker during this time. Or come after the retrograde, they might, begin to show the side that they were good at hiding, or whatever the case may be. Other than that, really make this time period about you. That's really what I'm trying to say. Make it about your worth. Make it about really, like, putting a stamp on what you deserve. Because that's what true love is. Okay? Siobhan, not today. Okay. Well, they will be coming, all right? Anyway, guys, if you guys have any questions about Venus in retrograde, I'll be back here sometime this weekend because I'm going to be talking to you about the new moon in Libra, which is really awesome. I can't wait because that'll be right after this friction goes and takes its place. But if you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to direct message me or text me or call me or whatever you would love to do. Other than that, peace, love, and happiness. Glad that you guys now understand Venus in retrograde and enjoy. Good night.